This is the momentum we wanted to see. Oh, and the spike!
Clutch kill there.
Oh, that's a lot of zoning, and Veto right into the dragon. 3 kills there.
Yes, oh, the spike.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, to our final day of Scholastic Collegiate Esports Competition. I am your host, Glitter Explosion, and we are going to be wrapping everything up today in our final day. Now, we have 3 new games on the horizon, and this time, that actually does, in fact, mean that I've got some new casters, at least for 2 of those 3 titles. So I am very pleased to welcome Pyrotechnics and Celtic Tiger. Guys, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks, excited to be here. It's good to be working with Tig too. I mean, it's been a little while. We're separated by oceans, but always connected by something more important: esports.
Yeah, just the one ocean, but it's pretty big.
Well, I mean, it depends on which direction you're going to really. But I could go on, and I don't want to do that.
Geography's hard. I understand. Now, listen, we have a lot to talk about today, but before we jump into everything, I had mentioned earlier that we do have some different games on the schedule, so let's take a quick look at that to see what matchups and titles we get to enjoy today. Now, you guys will be able to see that we are going to be starting off with Bay State versus Shawnee State in Hearthstone. Then we're going to be moving on to Michigan Tech versus Central Michigan for CSGO. And then we're going to be moving into Fortnite Duo's Spring Cup Final, which is going to be 80 players, 40 teams, 2 rounds of Fortnite. There we go. Now we've got everything that I was talking about up there on the screen for you guys so you can see exactly how that's all going to run. Excited for that. And I know you guys are here with us, Pirate and Tiger, for 2 of those games. Which one are you looking forward to the most?
Of the 2, or are you talking about all 3? Because Fortnite's always a little bit of a fun time, a little crazy, but I'm curious. Do we have to pick out of all 3 or just the 2?
No, just the 2 that you're going to be here for.
Oh, okay. Tag, you want to go first? I'll think for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I like CSGO. There's something nice to just how quick and punchy the action is, and the fact that I always like CSGO as an esport because of how accessible it is as well. Like, you could sit someone down who doesn't know a whole lot about esports, and they'll be able to pick up on what's going on in CSGO pretty damn quickly.
All right.
Yeah, that's a fair go. I'm going to be the contrarian then. I'm going to call Hearthstone because it's a little bit of a different esport, right? It's a card game. There are obviously a number of them out there, but Hearthstone is a game that's pretty near and dear to my heart. I played it for years. I always kind of leave and come back after a little while. There have been recently some really interesting changes. I love what Blizzard's done with the core set. And of course, the new expansion that's just dropped and some patches that have been coming pretty quickly to make sure things aren't super overpowered. So it's a game that gets a lot of maintenance, a lot of love. And I just love the pure strategy behind it. For somebody who doesn't have APM skills, it's a great game to watch and to play.
Yeah, I think today is going to be a good day, and I'm excited to have you guys with us. Now, chat, today is the last day that I can remind you of this, but the giveaways I've been talking about all weekend, okay? We're giving away a lot of items here. So you've got 2 opportunities to win something. You guys can win something here in chat with us or online through social media. So make sure you guys are hanging out, being active in chat to let us know that you're there, but also let us know what you're thinking on social media. You can use the hashtag NACEChamps and at Skillshot Media for all of the information how to enter into the social media giveaway. Do ! Giveaway in chat for the chat giveaway, and you could win some pretty sweet HyperX peripheral gear. Trust me, guys, you do not want to miss out on any of that. And another thing that I do want to take a quick moment to talk to you guys about is NACE. Now, I know we keep mentioning the name time and time again, but just in case you guys don't know who they are or what they do, so let's talk a little bit about them. NACE is actually a member-driven organization that focuses on the positive development of esports programs at the collegiate level in partnership with Skillshot Media. Now, we have a quick video, so let's take a look at it that shows off some of the cool things that NACE and Skillshot have been able to accomplish together over the years. to see all of the colleges and even the high schools, which we saw at the beginning of this weekend, getting involved in everything that we have going on here in the esports community. It is just a lovely thing to see. Now, guys, my casters, we're going to start talking about what we have coming up here for our lovely audience. We've got Bay State versus Shawnee State coming up, starting with Hearthstone, right? Let's talk a little bit about Bay State. One of you want to give me just maybe a little bit of background on them?
Yeah, I talk about the program as well, or do you want to talk about their player Bognasty?
We'll start with the program, and then we'll move into the player a little bit later. We'll do both.
Well, all right. Yeah, we'll do one then the other. Tig, if you don't mind, I'll take this one. This is a relatively new program collegiately for esports. They are Bay State College. I believe it is based in Boston, Massachusetts. This is the second year of the program. They've fielded a number of like high quality competitors. But it's relatively unproven, right? You've only been around for so long. So it's kind of like all about making a name for yourself. And doing it here at the NACE 2021 Spring Championship is pretty good opportunity to make that happen, I think.
Absolutely. And we'll save the player part because I'm actually interested in what you say about that. We're going to save that for a second here, though. We're going to jump on to, let's talk a little bit about Shawnee State. Tag, do you want to give us a little bit of history there?
Yeah, I mean, on the other side, you're talking about something that's relatively new. Now, something very slightly older, but established kind of late 2018, Shawnee State, they've been kind of bundled all their esports under their sports programs. So obviously that comes with a huge amount of benefits. And I think that's kind of the backing that you need if you're going to be competing at the top level, like the NACE Championship here.
100%. Now, as you guys are our resident experts for the day, I actually would like to know, coming into this matchup, what the two of you think the keys to victory are for these players. What are they going to have to do to secure their win here in the championship? And we'll start with you, Pyra.
Yeah, I mean, if I just have to speak like very generally on what I think you should be doing, it comes down to those deck lists, right? And what's going to be banned. Looking at the list we got provided for today's matchup, there is one mirror, and it's the Control Warlock. There's a couple of slight changes between the actual tech choices in there. I think if I'm either of those players, I don't really want to face the mirror because it's a little bit coin flippy, unless you're especially confident in your tech choices. So I'm going to say the first thing is to try to ban the mirror out, or ban maybe something that's a little bit more powerful than what you've brought to bear, because the meta has a couple of really, really strong decks like right now. The Secret Paladin is one of those. So either ban the Control or ban the Secret Paladin would be my recommendation if you're player on the other side. In addition to that, it's really about trying to trust in the tech choices you do make. I noticed a couple of interesting options. Things like Acidic Swamp Ooze to break weapons, very good situationally against a handful of the decks that have been brought in, and just trusting that those are going to help you in the key moments. So those are the two big ones for me.
All right. And then Tig, what do you think that the players have to do?
I presume it's too aggressively cliche to say believe in the heart of the cards.
I'll take it, man.
Seriously, on a more specific note, kind of cutting on that last point as well, predicting the matchup is going to be key, right? Because Hearthstone, you have your decks built, you have your decks pre-built, you know roughly what you're going to be facing into when you see those heroes come out. You're going to want to give yourself the edge at the very start of the game and just draw through from there.
All right, I love it. So then I'm going to have to ask you for predictions then coming into this match. Which player do you guys think is going to take it? Pyro, I'll start with you again.
So despite the fact that only one of these two players is fully undefeated in the tournament, it's a bit of an interesting bracket. It started with like a best of 5 series and then went to a best of 1 all the way until the finals, where we now have best of 5 again. So it's hard to read exactly numbers out of that, but only one of those two players has been fully undefeated, and that is going to be the player from Shawnee State, Krusty. However, I'm still going to pick Bognasty, and the reason I'm going to do that and why I think Bay State's going to take this 3-1 specifically is because I just like the decks that are being brought right now. There's a lot of really powerful decks in the meta, but particularly it's the likes of the Secret Paladin, the Control Warlock, I believe also brought Rush Warrior, and these are they're sort of more like tested winning on ladder at the moment, considering we've had a couple of weeks since the latest patch, which shook a lot of things up. On the opposite side, what I'm seeing out of Krusty is a little bit more of the older meta. There's a Spell Mage in there, for instance, a no minion mage. And while that's still very good, there's some choices, some tech choices in there that I'm kind of scratching my head at. So it's very possible that there's something Krusty has planned that I don't see. But on paper, I really like what Bognasty's brought, and I think that's going to be the overall win. So I'm going to call it 3-1.
All right. So we've got Pyro leaning towards Bay State, and then which direction are you leaning, Tag?
I'm leaning strongly towards Bay State as well. Potentially colored by the fact that both Pyro and I actually sat down and talked about these predictions ahead of time. But certainly I do agree with the general consensus. We're looking at decks that not only are just meta, but also I think just offer a little bit more versatility than we're seeing on the other side. Now, maybe that means that Krusty has something more specialized and more standard format that he's looking for, but I just feel like the versatility offered by the decks over on the other side gives the edge in this matchup, and to the point that I think a lot of the matchups specifically are quite favored towards Bay State.
All right. Well, I mean, if the past couple days here so far of this entire weekend are any indicator, it could potentially be a very, very tight race for these two players. But before we get into any more of that stuff, guys, it is time for our first break of the show. But don't worry, because when we come back, we will be getting into our first Hearthstone matchup of the day of the NACE 2021 Championship Series. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
NACE. My gamer tag is Krusty, and I go to Shawnee State University.
My name's Alex Easta. I go by Alan Dander, and I play for Shawnee State University. I think one of our upcoming strategies is going to be to avoid probability that Hearthstone has innate with it. Take decks that have the lowest risk of just drawing poorly and then you losing entirely because of it as well.
Our biggest strength is our level of preparedness. We try to make sure that we've kind of thought through every possible scenario, every possible in, every possible out, and make sure that no matter what's going to get thrown at us, we kind of have a plan. No matter what happens, I know that we gave it our best shot.
My full name is Christopher Zamora, Camora. My gamer tag is Bog Nasty, and the school is Bay State College. So I've been playing since the beta release in 2013. I think I was like a junior in high school when I first started playing. It's like any other card game. There's like a fair bit of luck of the draw and hoping your opponent is playing like a favorable matchup. My greatest strength is probably just like the amount of experience I have. I think I have really good, just like Hearthstone, just general knowledge about the game and a really good base of strategies and kind of like anticipating what moves my opponent's going to play next, which obviously helps me figure out my next move. And I'm ready to go.
Welcome back, everyone, to the NACE 2021 Championship Series. We are just moments away from our very final Hearthstone Championship match, and I'm excited to get everything kicked off. Now, I'm your host, Glitter Explosion, and I certainly can't do this alone, so I'm going to bring our casters back in. Pyrotechnics, Celtic Tiger, get in here to help me. Now, that was cool. We got to hear from the players a little bit there. So now's the opportunity. I want to talk about them, give them a little bit of love here before we jump into this match. Let's talk about the Bay State player first here, Pyra.
Yeah, so what's interesting is in that interview, Bognassi talked about how he'd been playing since, more or less like junior high school, a lot of experience, but he's not played a lot of competitive until recently. When we got a little bit of information on him earlier on, he was talking about how this was one of his first tournaments in addition to the NECC, where he was undefeated. So it makes sense that this is a player that's had a lot of experience playing casually, playing on the ladder. Sometimes that brings a bit of an interesting perspective. If you're not used to the pro level of play, you don't necessarily get held back by what you think is the optimal way to play. Sometimes the meta can kind of bind you a little bit. But what's interesting is he brought the more generally considered meta decks right now. So I'm curious to see how it ends up playing out.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of that, we also got to hear from the Shawnee State player as well. Ty, you want to tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, so Krusty has probably a lot more of a history in competitive Hearthstone, because he's been playing for, he talked about it there, he's actually been captain of the varsity team for the past 2 years as well. So certainly got like much more of a strong background in competitive, which, I mean, on top of the fact that there was a few things about that, if I'm coming in as Bay State, that would concern me, because the soft-spoken, storied player is just generally considered, this brought slightly non-meta decks, that's what just completely blows out a competition. You know, that's where the surprise factor comes in that I'm now looking at again and almost rethinking my prediction just solely.
Hasn't lost yet, too.
I kind of love it. Like,
yeah, maybe we're in trouble.
Oh, well, they're locked in now. There's nothing you could do to change it, so it's tough.
You gotta
now,
go big and bold.
Obviously, guys, this is a new game for everybody in chat. So before we head into our matchup, I do want to take a quick look at the rule set so you guys understand how exactly this is going to work. It's going to be 1v1 matches and a best of 5. There'll be no repeat classes and 1 deck ban per player. And I know you guys are excited to talk about that. The players are ready to get into their game. So it's going to be Bay State versus Shawnee State. Casters, take it away.
Thank you very much, Glitter. It looks like we are getting ready to rock and roll here, Bay State versus Shawnee State. So, Ty, we've talked about our predictions. We've maybe waffled just a little bit of it, but I do still think that on paper, Bay State Bog Nasty is looking pretty good with what's being brought, and I believe we have our bans coming through already, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about them right now. Not a huge surprise to see that Shawnee State ended up banning the Paladin deck, because that has been absolutely tearing up ladder right now. I've been playing it a lot myself, and it's honestly just free at the moment.
I mean, if you've been winning, it must be, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. No, I'm not good at Hearthstone, so like if I can win with it, then anyone can win with it. That's clearly the answer. On the opposite side, the Control Priest is what's been banned by Bay State, but there are a lot of other options there that Shawnee State has to play with. And we talked about slightly off meta things. I want to get into it because we talked about Spell Mage, and before I get eaten alive by chat, probably Spell Mage is a really powerful deck and has been, even though the nerfs did come through on Deck of Lunacy. But here's the thing. This particular deck doesn't have Deck of Lunacy.
Yeah, and I mean, I was actually watching the American Grandmasters there yesterday, I believe, or the day before, perhaps, and actually saw Deck of Lunacy post-nerf just immediately destroy a game. Just instantly, you play it, got the right RNG going for you, and you just completely take over. Losing that, not only the surprise factor, but even just the power of that card alone, does mean that this deck comes in slightly weaker. Now, how much weaker? It's hard to say. I think a lot of that will come down to the individual players, how the draws work out for them, but certainly that has been the card that basically the whole deck has been based around since it came in, and now just wondering where it will land, especially in comparison to, as you said, more meta decks on the other side.
Yeah, we'll have to see what ends up getting played first. I don't want to get too deep down the rabbit hole specifically around the Spell Mage. There's a number of other really interesting decks being brought. The Poison Rogue, I'm excited to see how well that works out. On the Bay State side, there's a mid-range Demon Hunter, which is an interesting one too, because that's going to be a fairly aggressive deck that's going to try to finish the game off with that Illidari Inquisitor, the 8 damage. But let's take a look. It looks like Rush Warrior is going to be the pickup starting for Bog Nasty, and we will see. It looks like Mage, so we will get that Spell Mage early on in this one. I'm really excited to see how it actually stacks up, but it's kind of two fairly aggressive decks when you think about it. The Rush Warrior going up against this Mage that is going to try to win even faster than post-nerf Deck of Lunacy.
Yeah, and I kind of like this as well when you're bringing in, going into game 1 of a best of 5, you're bringing in those quick decks, those aggro decks, try to get the momentum in a best of 5 going. I can really agree with the call from both sides here.
Yeah, okay, so early pickup here, not too bad at all for the side of Bay State. If we take a look at the Rush Warrior that was being brought, the Imprisoned Gnarg in the beginning of the hand, you've got some pretty powerful things to come out. Bumper Cars already listed as well, so this is a nice curve here. We'll see what the answer is going to be from Shawnee State. Looking at their particular deck, we're looking at, in terms of board removal, if they have to deal with a lot of stuff being filled up, they have things like Devolving Missiles, which won't fully remove, but it can actually help to limit some of the power. But they're going to want to try to get some board presence for themselves. So Font of Power helps. Primordial Studies will help. Maybe things like Cram Session. You want a lot of those in your hand early on, but you're going to have to deal with a lot of fast board presence that Bay State is bringing out right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's Rush Warrior always wants to control the board entirely, and going to have a pretty easy time if there's no real major minions to respond on the other side, but you are seeing some quick spawns now to try to cover that to a certain extent. I want to see how this kind of plays out. You're seeing a lot of quick buffs again. Rush Warrior being about buffing the hand, then playing the cards. So early on, not massively important what you get on the board, more about buffing what's in your hand before you can play it.
Yeah, but that Clutch Mage generation, though, on that minion is actually really good because it forces a lot of removal at the moment. So Stage Dive, easily getting corrupted right now. We'll have to flip over our perspective to see what that ends up being. So on the opposite side, what actually is going to be buffed. And it looks like Oh, wow. That's actually going to be the Tent Trasher. That's pretty huge for later on in this game. The fact is, well, already 3 mana. You don't really need to worry about later on. You've got it now. You can easily clear board. So this is looking really good for Bay State to kick things off.
Yeah, we're talking about early aggression. This is what they're coming out with. Immediately get the Tent Trasher on there. You got the Rush already going. Kind of expecting the board clear here. They're just waiting their time with it, deciding how best to go about it.
It looks like it's just going to use body and the weapon to clear. I mean, if you're a warrior, you don't really mind too much. You want to save the power on the body of your 7/6. So yeah, pop the bumper cars, get the 2 minions back in your hand. They'll do extra rush. Go ahead and clear it. You can tank the damage. Fine. You're a warrior. You can go ahead and armor up every turn if you want.
Plenty of space to work with here. Now, where's the response coming in? Because I want to see this from the Spell Mage. You're bringing this out. You've no Deck of Lunacy. Where is your early game power? You talked about that as well, with the fact they want to be dropping those spells quickly. What are we going to land with?
Yeah, so easily getting a little bit of draw there. But if we can swap back to the hand of the Spell Mage, I want to see what the options are available. There was the Devolving Missiles. That would be pretty useful. So yeah, we see the Crushing Spring Water coming through. That's pretty nice. Still getting the full refresh on there. Just going to go for the Brain Freeze instead. So that's buying time. You don't have the clear really there yet. And it's going to take a moment before we get to that. Apexis Blast will help. You can clear the 7/3 now, but you really need to start getting board presence for yourself. The Imprisoned Phoenix is pretty huge, but it might be a little slow. That's the one thing I'm worried about right now. So maybe you go for the Astromancer, and that seems to be the answer.
Yeah, I think that's it. You're saying just you don't want something that's going to have to sit dormant right now. There's just too much on the board. You need to get it clear.
Yeah. Okay, so go ahead and use the Ruined Orb. That's fine. So right now, oh wow, Deck of Lunacy actually getting generated. I kind of feel like you just take it.
Is this the play?
Exactly. Okay, so everything I said about how not having Deck of Lunacy is bad, well, I guess it didn't matter.
That's the most beautiful way of playing this deck. You're not even relying on the RNG the Deck of Lunacy brings in. You're relying on the RNG of your deck to generate Deck of Lunacy to generate the RNG.
That's the real big brain play, Tig.
That's not just praying to RNGs. That's sacrificing a goat.
Oh, that's the heart of the cards right there, man. So it's actually not looking too bad for Shawnee State at the moment because they've been able to slow things down. However, the options are still there for the Rush Warrior. I do feel like pulling that Deck of Lunacy is actually a pretty big game changer, though. So this should start to favor Shawnee State, considering there hasn't been any actual damage dealt. The Tent Trasher did nothing as of yet. Now you can take another one, and you're in pretty decent shape. It looks like Bognasty is going to take some time to decide what he actually wants to grab. The Crab Rider is still pretty useful too. Yeah, so it's going to be the Crab Rider. You just want to get a lot of board presence. Remember, the Tent Trasher hasn't been destroyed yet. There's still a lot of threat. You can pull the Crab Rider, and you also are able to buff it pretty easily.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of potential to attack face next turn as well if something doesn't get generated immediately.
Yeah, okay, so Apexis Blast, you've got another one. The problem is that burns your entire mana, right? So even if you get rid of the 7/3, you're still facing down the 3/4 that can hit you twice. You need to clear board fast, and unfortunately, not enough mana for the Flame Strike yet. Combustion could do enough, actually, but do you want to burn that right now? Because you don't know what else is lurking in the hand.
Yeah, I mean, you could just go for more Discovery here as well. See how well you get favored by the randomness of it.
You could, but you're going to take a lot of face damage, right? Like, you know, we're looking at like at this point, if you don't clear board or at least clear a couple of minions on board, you're looking at 15 damage. That's half your health. I think this might be worthy of the combustion, to be honest.
I can see it. I'm waiting to see what they go for here. I think we've a bit of time to kind of look over it as well, because again, you've the Deck of Lunacy. This is where the nerf kind of comes in. This is the kind of thing you may have dropped at this stage otherwise, but with the 4 mana cost instead of 2, it's obviously not something you're free to draw this turn. You just need to remove what you're saying.
That's actually clutch right now. You get a Rush Rhino off of it. You can actually clear as much as possible. So for the second time, a huge generated minion coming through here for Shawnee State. That's massive.
I mean, it's worked out great for them. I think you can then drop again. You could drop these minions, though. They can quickly kind of clear the board again. So
Trade Leader is
while
coming
it saved them briefly, you again have a huge amount of rush ready to go.
Yeah. So yeah, you drop the other Crab Rider at the moment. You don't have to if you're worried about like a high removal, but I think if you're Bay State right now, you're trying to get face damage because you've not been able to do a lot. So, you know, use one of the 3/1s, clear the Rhino, and then you can at least get 5 face damage out and start whittling away your opponent's HP.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of play they're sitting for here. I mean, this part of why Spell Mage is so funny, though. You just have this massive layer of just generation. You don't know exactly where it's going to play from. That's why, again, the deck of Lunacy was favored in the past. But even just standard, the amount of generation in the deck alone, this just huge amount of unpredictability on both sides. And it's funny because you actually saw Bay State discussing that, the coach, specifically mentioning that they wanted more predictable plays, decks that require that little less RNG. And it's funny here that so far the Mage has actually done quite well on that front. But at the same time, Rush Warrior is consistent, has gotten that board control that they're looking for, and is keeping the Mage under pressure.
Yeah, and that's really the key thing, is keeping the Mage like not able to play on their own terms, having to burn a lot of the generation, but because there is so much generated spells here, we can start to see the tides turning at the moment, and now, for the first time, the board control is in favor of the Mage. And there's a lot of other damage options, right? You know, one thing we hadn't talked about is, you know, what gets substituted when things like Deck of Lunacy are removed. The Mask of Cthulhu. There's 2 of them in this deck, and oftentimes you only see one. There's a few other options, a few things that have been substituted as well, but there's just so much flat damage. And if the warrior doesn't start armoring up or finding ways to keep the board cleared, very easily can start to get shredded down by that pure damage.
Even if you just look at the hand size right now as well, you have Mage sitting on a lot more options than the Warrior, because a huge amount of their strength was on the board and just been cleared once again.
Yep. Oh boy. Going to be just enough to clear the 4-3.
Which dragon was that got brought in from the draw? Looking forward to seeing that kind of brought in there.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have the Deck of Lunacy used at this point. You have enough of you have enough time to be able to pull that off. You don't have any immediate threat, just a 3/5 on board, and then followed by an Incanter's Flow. So this is a good combo because even though you're increasing your deck's spells cost as well as power, you're able to bring it a little bit back down. So you're setting up for a future play.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the same time, the Deck of Lunacy doesn't actually increase the cost either. That's part of why it's so strong. So
yeah, no, it just turns them into their original for sure.
Yeah, so wait to see how that kind of plays out. But on the other side, you did get that draw into the hand. So that's what I want to see, kind of what was brought in there. Did you manage to pull the Alexstrasza potentially? Not something you use at the moment, but could be a good way to kind of keep the warrior afloat if necessary at this stage of the game.
Yeah, but crucially, the Ringmaster Whately should help to grab a couple of cards. Then you talked about which dragon. I think it has to be Alexstrasza because we've seen both Tent Trashers. There was only one Tent Trasher actually in the deck. The other one was generated.
Yes.
So there should be a guaranteed Alexstrasza in the hand if we can get that up in a bit. Easily clearing the non-stealth minion. Warrior just trying to burst down the hand. But, you know, this is not the place I think you necessarily want to be. If you're Bay State, you want to have done a little more damage at this point.
I think that's it. I think the fact that the board was cleared twice so quickly by the Mage gave good control to kind of delay, get the Deck of Lunacy down as well. That wasn't in the deck, so probably wasn't something they were expecting to ever see in this kind of deck. So there's kind of a lot, as we said, the unpredictability of it, and seeing whether that's enough to really throw off Bog Nasty here.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing here. And the Flame Strike, you know, it's not ranged to full clear, but at least you can do enough to get them down low. I honestly don't even know if it's worth spending at the moment. But going to go ahead and do it. That spends almost all the mana. Oh, sorry, it was 5 damage. I'm dumb sometimes. That was enough, not 4 damage. That's why it makes sense.
Good face damage down, though.
Yeah, no, it was a good clear. And finally having enough mana to use it. So, my goodness, look at some of these generated spells. Libram of Hope in the hand of the Mage as well. That's pretty big, as long as you have something to stick on board. There's a Water Elemental to utilize. A lot of minions for a no-minion Mage. Okay, here comes the Rikara. So I feel like the win condition for Bay State here is got to still be being able to keep this board cleared, getting themselves down to that lethal range for the Alexstrasza, because that's an 8 flat damage you can get on immediately, and there's not a lot of heal for the Mage unless something got generated by the deck.
Yeah, and I think that's it. You should be aware that the Alexstrasza is in the hand now as well, so that's something you're probably planning around now as the Mage. As you said, you have a lot of options from what the Deck of Lunacy generated. So I want to see what they kind of bring out. But on the other side, you have this Warrior that we talked about, the consistency the Bay State were aiming for through this warrior, and we're seeing that. Look at that, buffed again, back in control of the board once again. This is the consistency they're looking for. This is the aim of the deck. Can you bring in something to remove this again as the mage, as you're not being put under a decent amount of pressure?
Yeah, well, I like the positioning too, because the Rokara is a huge threat since it's just going to consistently churn up bonuses to these minions, but there's a Divine Shield at the moment on the minion right next to it. So that means that the Warmaul Challenger would live through any like overflow damage that comes through. Instead, it's going to be a Nagrid Slam. That is going to be enough to clear a lot of the threats. Interesting, not taking down the Rokara. So trying to race to the finish line. This might be a bit of a photo finish, Tig. Playing kind of dangerously, Shawnee State here.
I mean, you could see why, though. We talked about multiple times what the aim is, and I think the aim to clear the board constantly has been the game here. And it's worked so far. They've generated great power from the spells. Now it's just about one final clear, really.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh boy. Well, the Rokara still being there is going to help, but what does the Warrior have in hand to really try and answer that? I'm trying to think. The Sword Eater, I think there might be one more still available. Overlord Ruthnak has not shown up yet. That's only a 3/6. You can't quite clear on your own. We're still waiting to see the Alexstrasza, which could come through, but that's not enough for lethal yet. So instead, it's just going to be conditioning. So a lot of hand buff to try and finish this up. We haven't actually seen the conditioning up until this point. Oh, it was the Samuro. Okay. So this is actually going to be a pretty big swing.
Yeah, the Samuro is going to be huge here. There's the Alexstrasza we were expecting in the hand. Bumper car as well.
Yeah,
big a lot of quick damage coming in.
Okay, so Rokara is going to go through. That does the extra damage from Samuro. There's the clear. So now the mage really has to rely on just what's in hand, and I don't think there's going to be enough for lethal. Next turn, this is going to be it, and Bay State will have come right back into this one. But there are a lot of options. The problem is you have to be using a lot of these spells on minions. Yeah, Psyche Split. I guess, I mean, if you want to, you could buff Samuro and give yourself one. That's a risky proposition.
Yeah, I think you still end up basically handing lethal over. That's got to be a massive concern. I mean, probably the biggest concern one would argue.
You could do is kill the Samuro, probably. I think you could do that, because if you buff it and you get a copy, it's, what is it, +1/+1?
Yeah.
You might be able to, but then the Rokara, I think, might prevent it.
Just going for another draw, seeing if you can pull something that saves this.
Okay, wait. Dunk Tank. Is that enough? Only adjacent minions. It's 0 cost. Yeah, you can do it with the orb.
Take out the Rokara directly.
Yeah, okay, so Psyche Split, he's gonna try to spend the Psyche Split on something. It looks like on the Rokara. Okay. You can still kill the Rokara, that's fine. You have Rush, you can deal down. So you're going to Dunk Tank here, do 2 damage to everybody across the board, and that is going to be enough to clear that board. And then, okay, Ruined Orb, get yourself a spell. Ooh, Fireball. Okay, this could be huge. Libram at the last second and finishes it off, so that actually managed to clear the board, which is massive. This is a very close game one.
Is there enough to respond? Though here comes the Overlord and just immediately clears it once again. You can drop those.
We switched perspectives. We didn't even get to see him fight.
Yeah. I don't think there was much to see, I'm afraid, Pyra. Just an immediate takedown.
Yeah. Should be armoring up at this point, because you're waiting for that Alexstrasza lethal range at the moment. But again, there's so much removal that you're kind of forced into a top tech situation, and this is where it swings back to the mage again.
Yeah, I'm just reminded of that animation. I remember, wasn't there was a deck in Hearthstone of old that I think the animations alone took 40 minutes or something?
Oh gosh, you must be talking about like Shutterwalk, I think, right?
Yes.
When we first met during the Masters way back in the day, I was telling you about that deck. I think I was gushing about it. It was just like you just get your opponent to just walk away because the animations took so long that you couldn't actually do anything for like half an hour. Mask of Cthulhu comes up, which is pretty huge. Should be able to clear the board unless you get mega unlucky. Already able to do it. There's still a Fireball in hand. It's going to be a little tough. Putting the Water Elemental on board.
That was a generated Mask of Cthulhu from the deck of Lunacy due to the reduced cost.
Yeah, I think so.
So I mean,
yeah,
there's even more Masks of Cthulhu's ready to go.
Quite possibly. Oh, okay. So you're going to get a 1/1 Water Elemental. This is pretty good if a weapon comes through. I don't know if there's another one left. But at the moment, the mage is just trying to get down to 6 on the warrior, and that means it's just going to be easy lethal. The problem is, Alexstrasza, oh, you're so close. You just need 5 more damage.
The question is, do you just drop it to take control of the board, or do you go with the Troublemaker here?
I think you Troublemaker. You hero power up, you Troublemaker, and you hope for face damage. Because I mean, that's the only option you have right now. You don't want to reveal the Alexstrasza. Shawnee has to know at this point. Krusty has to know that Bognasty has this. It's so low in the hand. You've already seen the Tent Trasher, so just by looking at it, it should be fairly obvious that the Alexstrasza is there. So we're playing for that lethal range. But the Troublemaker, if both somehow hit face, that's lethal range. It's a very close call. But that's 1 in 3 times 1 in 3.
I think it's what you aim for anyway, and as you said, that gives you enough to armor up just to play safe.
Yeah, plus you have to deal with the body as well, so the 1/1 will probably swing into it after that. And the 3/3s are both bodies that'll sit on board. So it's a huge body. It's worth it at this point. You can't play to try and generate the health, so the Troublemaker is going to go up, armor up, and now, pray to RNGesus.
How's the play?
Oh, no. But they did manage to take out one of the water elementals, and the other one's down to 3/3. So unlucky on that. Back over. My goodness, so many Paladin spells generated.
You're saying you were playing Paladin. Time for you to shine, right?
Yeah, apparently. Well, I didn't play the Libram package, but it is still pretty popular. Now, it looks like it's just going to be face damage with Fireball. Oh, with the Pexus Blast, that's it. That is going to be lethal. I missed that for a sec. Yeah, no problem. Game 1 is going to go to Shawnee State. So, the experienced tournament player, Krusty, is going to be able to play in victory in game number 1, and we'll see how it all goes forward. So now we'll switch off of that Spell Mage, and I'll have to be using one of the other options going forward. So I believe that is the Control Warlock and the Poison Rogue, which I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, I mean, we were looking at 2 decks that were very aggressive. Both players kind of down at the wire there, and I mean, we could talk about how maybe it was the experience that kept them in, but on top of that, just the pure RNG really helping out there, generating a deck of Lunacy, which we specifically talked about being a key component of the strength of the usual Spell Mage deck, managing to find it even though you had not put it in the deck. Massive, probably surprise factor there as well on the other side, completely flipping any way this game could have gone.
Yeah, but the core of the game plan really for Krusty there was like the fireballs, right? Those are the key cards to try and get that face damage. That's what allowed it to happen. Mask of Cthulhu helped to clear some board. The Apexis Blast was huge. It was sitting in the hand from like minute 1, and I actually completely forgot about it. So then it's like, oh, he has lethal anyways. So that whole Alexstrasza tried to.
You were looking at the Alexstrasza, and we missed the other, just coming from basically the same play on the other side.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a little unfortunate for Bognasty that there was not a lot of early sticking power, right? And this is what the mage wanted to do, is be able to clear away as much as possible, but just so happened to get enough clear, was able to always keep a little bit backed up in the hand, so that no matter what you did, even if you got that like 7/7 Tent Trasher right away on turn 3, it never got a chance to attack. It was frozen. So all those big swings were completely negated. And that meant that there was a lot of time being bought that Krusty was able to utilize to get a lot more board control. Yes, pulling out the deck of Lunacy was huge. That was, a bit of a chance. I think on paper, that deck may have not fared as well had it not generated that, but that's okay. A few things we didn't even really see, like the Ring Toss didn't really come in as much to play. The Flame Strike was pretty crucial, as was the single Mask of Cthulhu, but the second one didn't come up. So, this is what we talked about as a potential kind of backfire to our own predictions, is that these strange tech choices sometimes are unexpected and sometimes pay dividends. So this time it did. Now we're going to get into the next game, and it is going to be the mid-range Demon Hunter, I should say, versus the Control Warlock.
Yeah, and this is, as we talked about, this is a mirror matchup, or they not a mirror matchup, rather. They both brought in a Control Warlock, so finally going to see one come out here. We're actually expecting, potentially coming into this matchup, that they would try ban this mirror just to kind of play safe for themselves.
Yeah, well, the Control Priest, which has honestly, the Control Warlock does pretty well against it. That was actually banned by Bay State, but the Control Warlock, also brought by Shawnee, is coming to play here. So kicking off with the Demon Hunter, what this deck really wants to do, right, is stack a lot of bonuses on your hero's attack. It's pretty standard Demon Hunter, you get an easy +1 every time. So trying to buff up as many of your minions, utilizing that Outcast. Critically, the Skull of Gul'dan, sitting there with 1 mana reduction and on the left side of the hand. The second one gets drawn into the right side, so that's going to be probably not quite as utilized, but you can get it to the late point of the game. You're just going to be able to drop those really easily. And this is going to be a very aggressive push from the Demon Hunter player. And it's going to pretty much be on Shawnee State to try and outlast and outlive. Because if you get to that like 10 mana range, you're fine as Control Warlock. But how much health do you have at that point?
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, right? You're looking at a mid-range deck versus a control deck. You just have such an advantage as the mid-range deck in this early stage. You want to just get in as much face damage as possible, put that Control Warlock in something of a rough spot before they start drawing all their soul fragments, before they start just healing themselves up, armoring up, and as you said, get to the high mana costs and just drop insane amounts of spells.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at this point, when you're Demon Hunter, it's a mid-range deck, but you're kind of playing it like you're an aggro rush deck, right? You really just, you know that you have a timer ticking before this guy's going to take you over. So flipping over to the other side and taking a look at what I believe, Shawnee State's bringing here. Krusty should be able to get this clear off not too bad, but he's got to be careful not to spend all of it at once. And you do want to try and draw into those soul fragments as much as possible because you are going to be taking a lot of damage this game. So holding onto the coin is going to be pretty key until you really need to play it. Scorpid to deal with a big threat. There goes the Fellfire Deadeye, and it's going to be a free hero power for extra damage. It's going to be a 3 swing.
Yeah, I mean that's the basic idea here. You've got the Demon Hunter. You want to buff up the hero. Just attack face to face, mano a mano. I respect.
Yeah, you can put the Ogremancer on board right now with the coin. That's honestly not bad because the body's huge, and it's going to force the Demon Hunter to think twice about what kind of spells you want to pull out. So you kind of have to make a choice. Do you just ignore it and continue to slam face, or are you going to? There's not a lot of spells, so you can just kind of focus on minions, but you leave that 3/7 body available. Actually, just gonna slam the Skull of Gul'dan anyways. You get a Kazakus off of that, so I'd say definitely worth.
Yeah, I think you're gonna be pretty happy with that. And you can see already the kind of low costs bringing out here again is we're talking about playing this aggro. You want to just draw into cards. You want to get things onto the board. Great way to do it.
Yeah, okay. So you're going to go ahead and get those Demon Claws, +1 attack, just do a little bit of extra face damage. Yeah, you know, the Ogremancer's still going to be a little annoying to deal with, but here's the thing. He's only going to sit there for so long. If he wants to try and clear some of these minions, fine, but you'll be able to get your Bladed Lady up pretty soon. Kazakus costs 1 mana. So at this point, you can slam Kazakus and then get a 5/5 Golem that does whatever the heck you want. So this is a great position to be in if you're the Demon Hunter right now.
Yeah, and on the other side, you know, you kind of look at Kazakus, you generally have to make those kind of decisions about when you want to draw out the Golem. In this case, you're probably looking for a mid-range game. You just want something that'll get onto the board, have a big effect immediately. So we talked about this. You're playing it much more aggro than you might in a different kind of matchup.
Yeah, a little bit of late game already drawn by the control lock. You know, there's that Yasharge already in there. Is he just going to drop the Bladed Lady and deal with the 6/6 or deal with the Ogremancer? I guess so. So, you know, considering that a pretty immediate threat right now, this is slowing the tempo just a little bit, which is always good for the control lock. But I don't think it's a huge problem. You still have a huge threat on board that has to be dealt with. That could just be removed this turn. But the Demon Hunter has a lot of options, and that Kazakus, just holding for now, considering it's been dropped down to 1 mana, is pretty massive.
Okay, you can see just looking for the discovery here, which could maybe help split this board a bit. Could grab a Twisting Nether here, just in case you need to clear the board once again, slow down the Demon Hunter.
Yeah, you don't quite have the mana for a few turns yet, but I do think it's the right call, and you called it there, Tig. The Twisting Nether comes in, so that's just a free extra one. You've got Armor Vendor, which is pretty huge right now. Drain Soul. You can actually just, get the Drain Soul, get the 3 health back. So this is starting to turn it in favor of the Control Warlock because that Armorsmith is really, really good. Or Armor Vendor, I should say. Kazakus is huge here, but I wonder if you don't, instead of mid-range, do you now go for the 10 drop?
That's what I'm saying. It's now kind of been pushed further on than you might like. You're talking about how generally you go for the mid-range. As you said, big heals, big armor coming in that quickly. You see the consideration is there. You have those turns, you could wait for it.
Yeah, you could. So, I mean, it's seeming like they're just running out of steam for a second. So, at the moment, okay, going to be using the rank 2 Fury. That's going to be giving your hero a little bit of extra attack. Do you want to I-beam clear and just try to go for face? You have enough health to tank it? It seems to be that's the case. So the I-beam goes pretty cheap. You have a second one you can use. Kazakus is going to come out. I think this is going to be the mid-range, though. Now you have the 5 mana.
Okay, what does he end up going for effect-wise?
He's got Rush. Let's see if he gets 2. He's going to Okay, it's probably going to be the Fire Bloom.
You'd have to assume.
Yeah,
It's
you
that
don't
or
get
Battle
full
Cry
clear.
if you want to bring, or it's that if to draw 2 cards if you really want to go.
Yeah, going to be that. You don't quite clear, but you can go ahead and go face anyways. That is going to free trade into the Kazakus. It's good value there for Krusty, but you're still able to keep this Warlock on his toes for the time being. Another Twisting Nether drawn, so there is just so much board clear available. Oh boy, and the Sociologist comes through. So that was a lot of soul shards that haven't been drawn. Now it's bad.
Yeah. And that was real quick as well. You're going mid-range. You think you have the way to kind of control this deck. You have the early advantage, and suddenly you get all this brought against you so quickly.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like huge hard removal at the moment that can be spent. You know, you want to usually save your Illidari for like a big game swing. You could pull it out right now, clear the 5/5, and maybe try to do a little bit of extra damage. But yeah, oof, this is a little bit rough at the moment. I don't think you can pull the Illidari at the moment because that's your only swing with the mana. Instead, it's just going to be the Chaos Strike instead. Let's see what the draw is. It's going to only be a Wand Maker for now.
I think at this point, you don't naturally have a huge amount of kind of AoE board clear in this deck, as far as I recall. So this is where probably I'd be majorly concerned, because a lot of this is about buffing up your face card and trying to do damage to face.
Yeah, you're just going to be racing at this point. I mean, yeah, you can I-beam, you can clear a little bit out of it at the moment, but this is definitely not looking that great. It was a huge swing for Shawnee State, and that could be them going up 2-0 after this. So Relentless Pursuit is going to be popped up. That's a lot of damage for face. So you're just going to try to race to the finish line, and it's going to be on the back of that Illidari Inquisitor. Because remember, all you need to do is get it on board and attack face, and it will attack face too.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this on the board right now, just from attacks alone. You're sitting at about 23 damage you can do. If you have any more damage to kind of pop on top of that, you could potentially aim for something lethal after that. I don't know what you're going to be really have.
I think you drain soul here. Like if you're the Warlock, it's tempting to go Twisting Nether, but you might as well just slam face with everything.
Yeah.
Go for the lifesteal to get a little bit extra back, and then just swing face with all of your soul shards.
I think that's got to be it, right? Like I was actually expecting he might go straight for face, but decides to clear out some of the board in the meantime. As you said, the lifesteal making a lot of sense here.
Hey man, it's true in a lot of games. Greed equals feed.
Yeah. I'm a greedy man, Pyro, okay?
Well, boy, do I have a deck for you. It's called Face Hunter, my friend. Well, I guess in Hearthstone, greed is a little bit more like you want to try and grab all of your value cards, even if you get rushed. So Hysteria going to go ahead and get used just for
extra
interesting,
damage,
just
really.
for the extra face damage attack. That's a choice. Okay.
You know what? That's the kind of greed I can respect, you know?
Yeah, no, I like that. That was good. But now the Demon Hunter is having to face down 13 damage. So the question is, how much damage can you put out and get the Illidari? I don't know if you can do much because it is an 8 cost. It's a very expensive drop, and I don't think there's enough left in the tank. You do have your big weapon. The Warglaives are there, but there's no lifesteal at the moment.
Follow-up
so
on that, really.
Yeah, you're kind of in a little bit of trouble. The 3/3s are really turning the tide.
So you could kind of look at the it's not the lifesteal, the I-beam, and then that would only clear 1 is the problem, right? So I'm waiting to see what the play is here.
Yeah, there just isn't enough hard removal. You're right. I mean, it's gotten to the point, we're 9-10 mana into the game on the next turn, and yeah, I mean, you can try to, you can I-beam down 1, you get a little bit of lifesteal back.
Right? Yeah.
Do you last though? I mean, so right now there's 15 damage, so you still have 1 above. You can swing face, and basically you're just hoping that you survive. And if you do survive, you Illidari to win. But this is 1 damage. Does the Warlock have the 1 damage? Is the question.
Well, immediately just going for the face attacks, and then I think you're looking at it and going, okay, so this is putting you in an amazing
think
spot.
the Warlock has it. He's gonna have to tap.
You get the Ogremancer down, maybe?
I mean, it's not going to necessarily make a difference, right? You're looking for, you need 1 straight damage. The problem is, so he's brought, I think Alexstrasza runs in this one. But the problem is, if you tap, you can't play Alexstrasza afterwards. Instead, you just, I do like this, the Strongman Corrupt, but I don't know if this is going to be enough. You can't swing. You actually can't swing into the into the 6/6 if you're the Demon Hunter right now.
Yeah.
So you need to basically like make yourself immune this turn and then drop something down. But I don't know what he top decked at the moment.
And on the other side, you have to remember that this means you have the Defiler ready to go, Shari. And that means you can get both of those strongmen back and onto the board the turn after.
Yeah, so okay, so here it's the desperation. It's Skull Gul'dan because you don't have enough to do anything else. So you can Relentless Pursuit here.
It's immune.
That's huge. And you can attack again, so you're able to get a full clear off of it. But yeah, the next turn is going to be the charge.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a huge swing here. Again, the problem is he's never been able to pull the Illidari combo off. And Shawnee State is going to know that this is happening. So your charge is going to come in. You're going to get this big turn swing. I think this is GG.
Yeah.
But I want to see exactly what he generates because I need to remember. Yeah, he's going to get his crap.
Too strong,
I think that is it.
To me, that's just too much taunt on the board, if nothing else.
Oh god, he draws the ticket to Slate. But yeah, unless he can clear both and still get the Illidari can clear one. But you don't have, if you are the Demon Hunter anymore, you've already spent both of your Relentless Pursuits, and you wouldn't have had enough mana to do it anyways. So at this point, yeah, I don't think he has an option. He also would have had to slam another Warglaive in order to make that work.
Just giving him a chance.
He doesn't have a way to make
I'm giving him
immune.
a chance to surprise me. You know, that's the play.
Well, he's still in it at the moment. He's going to drop the Mankrik? Okay, oh, he's going to try to draw... Oh! Okay. He was going to try to force the Mankrik's wife.
See if you can find it.
Yeah, doesn't look like it, though. Not enough. I think it was relying on trying to get the Mankrik's wife, but I don't think it mattered. So it's going to be 2-0 up right now for Shawnee State. That was very close, though. It just needed to pull off the Illidari combo. So, you know, the experience in tournaments is coming up aces right now here, Tygan. I think we were both wrong about the prediction so far. 2-0 for Krusty in this best of 5 series.
Yeah, but you have to see each of these games getting so close as well, coming down to the wire. You're kind of seeing more about not even just the experience of it, but how both of these players are so strong in their respective fields that they're coming in and getting each other right to the edge. Then, as you're saying, there's just that little bit more each time.
Yeah, no, and it comes down to just a little, just a single play, just one card really making all the difference. The charge was huge there for Krusty, and that just showcases the power of this Control Warlock. Now, that's the one deck we actually haven't seen from Bog Nasty yet. So I'm curious if he just swaps up to it here at the end, and this is potentially match point. We could end up into 3-0 the opposite way if that happens. You know, it's going to be curious. We still haven't seen the Poison Rogue as of yet coming out of Krusty. That's an interesting matchup. And now you kind of see why the Secret Paladin was banned, right? I think it would have had a much faster ramp up and much faster swing in this particular matchup. And that would have made a lot of difference, even though the Demon Hunter is pretty powerful on its own.
Yeah, I think that's it. Like, as you said, he was just that one card away, really trying to get that Inquisitor down to take it. But at the end of the day, if you're just blocked every time, there's enough taunts, getting the right cards each time, that's part of, again, the control decks. That's what you're aiming for. Just stall it out until you have your win condition. You got there.
Well, you see a lot of the extra value that keeps getting generated, right? Like Yasharge bringing in double strongmans, and that was the huge difference maker. You know, because you're playing Yasharge, and you know, I think they already come back as the corrupted versions of them anyways because they've been dropped. So it was easily able to pop them in. So we're going to go ahead and get into our third game, which could be the last one. It is going to be the Rush Warrior for Bay State once again. This time it is going to be up against the Poison Rogue, the last deck that was brought by Shawnee State. So a little bit of info about this one. The Poison Rogue, very similar to the Demon Hunter, all about the weapon attacks, except its synergy with all the different types of poisons you can generate and use. So start off for the Control Warrior, we once again have the Imprisoned Gennard coming out. So a good start. Looking at the hand, there's a second one in there. You already have Condition, but you have pulled the Tent Trasher, so it's not the best mulligan you could hope for an early start. However, I think against Poison Rogue, you might want to play it a little safer.
I think, yeah, you can armor up nice and early. You can sit on some of your wait for some of these minions to be drawn out. As you said, a lot of this is going to be based on actually just face card attacks.
Job's done.
So armoring up is actually pretty big into that.
Yeah, early self-sharpening sword with the preparation, that's going to be pretty big to stack up, and that is exactly why you want to armor up as much as possible, just so you don't get pelted down before you're able to maintain control of the board. So the Gennard comes out, that's going to give a 3-2. War Mall Champion, a Challenger, not a bad pull on the top deck, but there's no board presence to deal with.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things, like, you have a lot of minions that will immediately attack whatever's on the opposite board. Well, the Rogue doesn't have that many minions that it's really going to want to use. I mean, looking at the deck list, that's usually the most standard anyways. You've got like the likes of the Wand Maker, you've got Apothecary Helbram. You know, that's kind of it. Prize Plunderer.
You see the other side going kind of anything you can do, I can do better, and just attacking back with more face damage the other way.
Exactly. So yeah, this Poison Rogue here for Shawnee State. I mean, this could be the 3-0. Remember, we have to think about the mental that's happening right now too, because Bog Nasty finding himself down 0-2 in this matchup, and back on the Warrior that had a pretty close game, but couldn't quite come out on top. So I want to see what he does different this time. Sometimes it is just down to what you can actually draw, but in a better shape to actually just do the pure damage. You still have to watch for that weaponing though. The self-sharpening sword has a couple of hits left, but it's already up to 3.
Yeah, and I think if we're looking across the meta generally, this is probably the Poison Rogue now is probably the least meta of any of the decks brought in. But we've already seen the meta challenged twice now. And it's all about, can you do it this third and final, most important time?
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting deck for sure. I haven't seen a lot of it on ladder myself, so I'm curious to see how well it performs. But clearly, Krusty is happy doing something a little bit out of the ordinary. Big hand here. So let's see, he's got the other prep right now. Let's see if he's going to be placing anything else on board after the self-sharpening sword on its last charge with the single 4 damage hit. There are a number of options to play. Taking a look at what's in hand. The Swindles, but you don't necessarily need to play them right now when you have your hand as thick as it is.
Yeah, you got a lot of low cost at least. So again, this is talking about how you have a deck that can move quite quickly. You're seeing nothing above 3 cost there, and basically a full hand. If not, actually, literally a full hand.
And a lot of it's just draw and swap too, right?
Yep.
I mean, if you're talking like the Secret Passage, you don't really want to play that right now. So there's actually a lot of these low-cost cards in hand that you don't really want to use, but you will put on the Silverleaf Poison. Okay, I mean, it's interesting considering that's only a single one left, but I guess you don't want to draw that much. And he actually just holds for the time being.
I think that's fair. I think you don't want to start just burning through cards either, because you literally had a full hand there, so that's probably the call. Kind of deciding that potentially wasting something is better than actually losing top deck.
Yeah, for sure. And the critical thing here now is if you have time as the Rush Warrior, and you certainly seem to at the moment, you're still on 30 health, you have your 2 conditionings. You have both of them that are upgraded to level 2 right now. You could spend one at the moment and maybe put something on board, or you could just save until you can get that extra level up all the way at 10 mana. Because you have Tent Trasher, you have Playmaker, and you have Samuro in your hand, that it could just be absolutely disgusting board clear if you ever even need it against the Rogue.
Yeah, and I'm expecting to play getting the Playmaker down early would be huge if you can get some more of your rush minions to follow. You don't need to play it this turn, but could be a nice opener.
It could be if you're certain that it can't be cleared, and I don't really think you can be at this point if you're base state. So I kind of feel like you just go for the single conditioning, you armor up, you play it safe, and just do the single damage this time around.
See it?
Yeah. Yeah, don't put the Playmaker down until you're ready to full combo, I think.
It's fair. We can now see the other side. I want to see what that kind of 10th card is as well, what we've got to work with here.
Okay, Sinister Strike.
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well just spend as much as you can, but like the Rogue is having a hard time making the damage stick. You're looking for a good combo. So it's 2 Sinister Strikes being spent right now. Gonna go for the face damage with the draw. But you don't want to play a lot of minions at the moment. Instead, you get the Shank. That's actually not a bad pull, because the self-sharpening you want to save for a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, that means you get right back onto your weapon, which is important as you lost it.
And you get the bonus durability every time you pop a poison on it, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a little longer lasting. Still, though, despite all that combo, I mean, that's not damage you can do consistently. I think this board state, this hand state too, really favors what the Warrior is trying to do. As long as he keeps the armor up.
You're looking at a lot of options on the Rogue side, but the problem is none of those options seem to be matching what the Warrior's bringing out, right? As you said, another conditioning to buff the hand once again.
Yep, gonna go ahead and use it. So there we go. So next turn's gonna be the big swings. You put the Tent Trasher out now. That's perfectly fine. You just hope that you don't have enough to clear it. I think next turn you just start popping everything on board. You can do the Playmaker followed by the Samuro if you want. Obviously, it won't be able to attack right away because there's Rush is only going to be able to affect minions. But that's fine if there's no board clear.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. It's like you're basically at this point going, well, he's letting me free attack him constantly. He mustn't have the board clear. And you're kind of gambling based on that, would be my thoughts. And to a certain extent, Hearthstone is something of a gambler's game, right? There is a level of orgy to it, but based on the actions, you can predict what's happening here.
That's true.
And probably just going to run
Yoink is going to be pretty useful, but we'll see what it ends up coming up with, because you really need to buff that weapon as much as possible. So it goes ahead and Yoinks a hero power for a second. I don't think you really want to draw, but yeah, going for just a little extra damage with the fireball. Okay.
I think more importantly than not wanting to draw, you don't want to give yourself any more damage than you have to, right?
Yeah, exactly. Prize Plunderer comes through. It's going to be able to do 5 damage, so you're going to try to clear that Tent Trasher. Easy peasy, spending both of them. Okay. So just going to go face. Makes sense. You've dealt with the biggest threat on board.
Yeah, I think, again, we're talking about someone who's kind of struggling with just straight up health. Just need to clear, as you said, the biggest threats, some of the big damage cards that you're trying to avoid, and just give yourself more turns to work with here, because you're also something looking to attack the face, right? You're looking to kind of build that up.
So here's the Playmaker. Actually going to stage dive. I kind of like this because it gives you the chance to armor up. Bumper Cars gets drawn. Okay, maybe you just play that now. I don't think there's going to be, you can safely assume you're not going to get lethal this turn. But you can see the thought process right now, just from the card hovers. Bay State, backed against the wall. Remember, if you lose this one, it is over, and you get second place in the NACE 2021 Spring Championship. And I think trying to stay as healthy as possible certainly going to help, but you don't want to be too conservative, right? Because then you'll just slowly lose the game anyways. It's called Rush Warrior, not Weight Warrior.
I do think there's an element to that, but also the fact that every game they've looked like they're in a strong spot, and then just had that completely pulled out from under them. Yeah. So probably just taking your time to go, I'm definitely winning, right? This is...
I do like the double bumper cars. Like, that's pretty big right now. Playmaker's massive. Like, there isn't a lot of board clear. So this is going to force the Rogue to do something this turn. I don't think there's actually enough to full clear this board. And the Playmaker is a huge threat.
I think that's got, like, I'm literally just looking through the hand. Anything that can clear that mass amount of it, it's looking rough. I think it's the simplest way to put it.
You kind of have to hope that Wandmaker generates something. Okay, Brain Freeze is pretty big. You can at least freeze the Playmaker and buy yourself some time. But you're at 11 health. I think this might be the turnaround. I think this might be where Bay State takes the game.
Yeah, and we did talk about how Poison Rogue is a little out of meta, and we're starting to see some of the reasons why. Just the cards can't really match the pace at which Warrior is coming at them in comparison to the previous ones we saw beforehand.
Just full face. Live by the sword, die by the sword. I love it.
They drop the Brain Freeze? Or are they literally just going full face here?
Oh, okay. So I forgot about the stealth, actually. That's pretty good. Okay. Cloak of Shadows. That's going to help, as it means that you can't get targeted this turn. But I don't see enough to really finish the job. So if you're the Warrior, you just armor up. You try to stay safe. You clear as much of the board as you possibly can. You can throw Samuro down after this. Well, I guess you can't if you use your bumper cards, because then you don't have any space on board. But I guess you just hope there's no lethal right there. But at 12, I think you're okay.
On top of the fact you just dropped a taunt as well, should be pretty comfortable.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot in hand. I mean, this might be the point where you use the Secret Passage. So there is a Deadly Poison top deck. That's pretty big, but it's still not enough to quite finish the job. I think you might need to use the Secret Passages and see if you can get
many options.
See if you can get something that can help you, like, just end the game here. So you drop the Deadly Poison, maybe you pick up a second one, but even then, that's only 7 damage. You need 12 to finish the game off. You've already used both of the Sinister Strikes. So there we go. Secret Passage for the RNG. Okay, pulling the Cloak of Shadows is actually massissive.
I think that might...
Oh my god! Got the Wicked got the Wicked Strike. I think that might be enough.
too soon.
No. This is so...
Oh my goodness.
This would be so...
That's 8. I think that's 12. I think that's lethal.
heartbreaking.
Oh no, but okay, he's got a taunt.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I got a little too excited. But you do, at this point, you do Cloak of Shadows. I think, oh boy.
Oh no.
Okay, so the 4 damage went away. You're gonna do that again next turn and hope to grab it. I think the cards might be that low. You still have an armor up, and you have to use it.
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
you still survive, but it is so close every time, Tig.
There's just never that little bit where you think, okay, this person's gotten in control of it, they have the full board, and it's still just finding those openings each time. This is the kind of experience we talked about coming from this player. This is the way in which you're seeing it. Never, even though they're under so much overwhelming pressure on the other side, never succumbing to it.
Yeah. No, that's what's incredible here. It just keeps going back and forth. That Control Warrior coming up really huge right now, courtesy of your one pirate. Oh my goodness. Or Rush Warrior, I should say. The Sword Eater really helps with the taunt at the moment. That's pretty much saved the life of Bog Nasty. Looks like the secret passage was generated from the Wand Maker, so that's not exactly what you were hoping for. At this point, you can do 4 face damage. You can secret passage. You can hope you get something. I don't think there's anything that can clear the Sword Eater, so I think this is GG.
Said that too many times for me to be certain, so I'm watching here. Now you go for the taunt again. Drop more. The Brain Feast has to go on the Playmaker.
Okay, so he's just trying to stay alive, but you don't have.
There is only 9
to...
damage there, by my count. So
there should be there should be enough with the weapon. Okay, no, use the Wicked Stab, and okay, now you remove it. So I think you're right. I think that's going to save for 1 turn, but you just armor up again. And Overlord Rid down. Yeah, you just keep armoring up. Just keep it safe, and then just go face with everything else. And yeah.
Yeah, now you're really just kind of trying to tighten the vice here,
Yeah, I don't think there's anything left in the tank for the rogue. You might be able to pull a single additional poison, something like that. There's no more taunts, obviously, to block, but that Wicked Stab had to be used on a minion. So, yeah, at this point, you're basically just saying, okay, either you can do 16 damage this turn, or I stay alive.
Yeah, and the rogue themselves announces, I'm almost out of cards.
Yeah, no, I think this is it. Secret Passage, yep, okay.
Yep,
do you have anything left in the deck? You just get, you get Yoink, okay, cool. You can get a hero power. It's not enough.
That's the whole deck.
And yeah, you can Demon Claw, sure. Honestly, I would have hoped he would have taken the Manor Heal. Just to be like, hey, come at me. The most BM thing to do is to heal your opponent.
Yeah. Well, at the end of it, it's just going to be, looks like the Warrior finally does finish it off, take it.
Yeah, no, I love this. I love that Bog Nasty finds the win to stay alive. And, you never really want to see like a full 3-0. I mean, it's cool to see one player like so good that they're dominating, but considering how close this has been, the scoreboard just hasn't really reflected it. So now Bog Nasty picks up a game. Bay State is back in this one. They still have a climb back to go. You can't afford to drop any more. And you showed all your decks, right? Mm-hmm. So with that win, you can't take Rush Warrior anymore. The Paladin's been banned, so I feel like you kind of have to just guess at it. I mean, you're going to be up against the Poison Rogue again. You could go for the Control Warlock. I feel that could work. I think the Demon Hunter might be an interesting matchup, though, because they're both trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, part of me prefers the Demon Hunter. I think just gives you a bit more consistency into it. Because Control Warlock, while strong, might have a slightly hard time delaying the Poison Rogue, but we did talk about Poison Rogue being generally considered weaker in the meta, so it's really about which you favor, right? Going into the matchup, you know what it's going to be. Yeah. This isn't a kind of shot in the dark prediction anymore. You know what you're comfortable on.
On the plus side with the Control Warrior, or the Control Warlock, you have a lot of heal with the soul shards, right? So if you just consistently keep yourself out of lethal range, you can start to rely, similarly like we saw in the reverse matchup, the strongmans can start to come out. Once you're at Jiraxis, once you're at your charge, I mean, you can pretty much stop it. So if you can get to the late game, you pretty much just win because that rogue runs out of options. The question that you have to ask, though, if you are Bog Nasty, is are you willing to take that risk?
I mean, at a certain point, you're going to have to, right? So
Yeah.
I think either way, I'm kind of looking at it. It is an if you can, right? But certainly, we talk like Bog Nasty, or the coach rather, I think Alan Dander talked about how they preferred going for this consistency. So at a certain point, you just got to believe in your own decks, right? You got to presume that they're more consistent, they have the results, and nothing so surprising should come out from the Poison Rogue that you're unprepared.
Yeah, not to mention, I mean, you're going to have to play both anyways if you want to win, right? You eventually have to get to that matchup. So it looks like we are going to start off with the Warlock in the matchup. So, you know, that was the pickup. You know, it'll end up being a Demon Hunter if they win at the end of it all. But Bay State still in this game starts off with the Spirit Jailer, which is not a bad pull. You get the 2 Soul Fragments already. And on the opposite side, not a lot of weapons really available here for the Rogue. So Steady Shot is pretty good, though. That's actually a really nice pull off the Yoink, starting off with a little bit of extra free damage.
And again, this is what you're doing. You're into control. You're going to play aggro. Poison Rogue was already looking to play relatively aggro in the previous matchup as well, but doing so again here makes a lot of sense.
Yep. So far, so good, though. We don't see the hand quite yet on the Warlock, but we'll get back into that one. And then the Wand Maker is going to come out to generate a spell. What's it going to be? Sinister Strike. That's huge. Okay, so you may not have a weapon, but at the moment, you have a lot of extra damage, and you're able to spend that second Hunter ability to get that damage down. Now, swapping back. Okay, we have a Soul Shear. That's pretty good. You don't necessarily need it right now, but he's going to use it just to get the extra soul fragments in the deck. Now, remember, the tech choices in this one, the Siphon Soul is one of the choices that was teched in, as well as I think there were a couple other options, but we also see double Cascading Disasters. If you can get that Corrupt off again, you can just board clear after board clear after board clear. But you don't really need the board clear up against this Rogue, so maybe that's not the best thing to have in hand right now.
Yeah, and I think the big thing, again, we were talking about how the Rogue's just going for flat damage, and so far it's working. There's no real issues here. But it's all about what the Warlock can draw in. You have those soul fragments to heal you up. All this damage we've seen before can very quickly flip out.
Yes, it can. We've seen the Tamsin dropped on board to generate a little extra spells. Looks like we've gone gray for just a second, so please bear with us as we'll try to get back into it. There we go. And we are going to see the clear. Looks like the excuse me, what was that weapon called again? The self-sharpening sword. I always get them mixed up. Does come into play to clear away the Tamsin. Yep, and there's the tech. We're talking about this in the pregame. The Acidic Swamp Ooze is going to clear that away. That is a huge value play right now. You remove one of the 2 self-sharpening swords on 3 durability.
Yeah, actually, this is something we were talking about pre-series, but something we failed to mention kind of pre-game. The tech, this is basically almost specifically designed towards the Poison Rogue. Part of me wonders if that ends up being something that's kind of consistent, that was put into this deck specifically knowing that this is going to be the matchup. It certainly has been kind of a big tech that's allowed
it could
them
be
to
likely, right? That's the thing, is like there's a lot of powerful weapons in the meta at the moment, and this Rogue particularly is relying on them. So it makes a lot of sense to me. Prize Plunder is going to be able to clear away the Ooze, but its damage has already been done, forcing the second self-sharpening sword out. And a Wicked Stab rank 2 comes out. So actually getting a huge amount of value out of that secret passage right now. And the Warlock is down to 16 HP. This might be the time to like spend the Siphon Soul. Like maybe the Drain Soul instead, but you know, there's not a lot of minions you have to choose. So you might as well go for the Siphon. And you're going to be holding the Alexstrasza right now for self-heal, I think.
Yeah, I think that's about the only play I can picture here with the Alexstrasza. Control Warlock's not about to flip out and do a bunch of damage followed up by an Alexstrasza play, so I think it makes a lot more sense.
You're just hoping to draw your soul fragments.
Yeah,
you're hoping to draw your soul fragments at this point. Ticketus, you could drop the body on board right now, but then you end up burning your own cards. I don't think that's the play. I think you want to Siphon Soul.
But like it doesn't even have taunt. Like having the body on board doesn't help you hugely.
No, not against the weapon. That's true.
Yeah.
It forces a reaction, and you get the 8 damage. But the problem is you risk burning all of the soul fragments that you kind of need to generate. Yeah. Go big or go bold. I don't know. It looks like he's going to drop it and just go for the board clear. Oh, that goes to Strongman too, and the Armor Vendor.
Okay,
I didn't see the
they've
last
taken
two
it away.
burns,
We
but-
can't even bear to look.
Yeah, no, it's too hard to watch. Oh goodness, and he gets a brain freeze too. So at this point, basically, you're kind of just hoping to draw into something that helps you. We didn't see the soul fragments. You're hoping to draw a couple of those. You're still several mana away from the likes of Jiraxis or Alexstrasza. You got a strongman burned. I mean, that kind of hurts right now.
Yeah, and you bit the hero's immune now as well. There's just a nice few poisons coming in here. Good bit of strength
another
added to
paralytic.
this rogue.
Okay, so you should end the turn on the brain freeze of Ticketus, and yeah, this is tough right now. Bay State managing to get a win in the matchup earlier against this rogue, but not able to find answers here just yet. 5-2 and no more acidic swamp oozes to help. Let's take a look at the hand of the Warlock and see if anything is coming into play. Running short of options at the moment. You need to buy time at this point. Yeah, you got to use those Siphon Souls.
Mhm.
Or the Drain Soul. And
The drain
there's
soul would
nothing
clear
else
the
you can
board
do.
at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can still clear it with the Drain. I feel like
Yeah.
the Siphon's a better play because there aren't a lot of minions here that the Rogue is going to pull out anyways, and you're still going to get 3 health back. But the problem is the rest of your hand kind of does nothing at the moment. Also, the
Yeah, I
Brain
mean, you're
Freeze
waiting-
didn't
you're
get
waiting
used.
2 more turns for Alexstrasza as well.
Yeah, the Brain Freeze didn't get used in favor of buffing up the weapon instead. So you do have a free hit with Ticketus.
Might be worth tossing down just to have it done, if you
Yeah.
have the space for it.
Okay, going for the Drain Soul instead. I feel like this is going to result in a tap, and I don't know how I feel about that because it's a dangerous game to play when you're 2 mana away from your Alexstrasza.
That's my concern, right? I feel like you don't have the comfort to life tap, but
Definitely debating it at the moment. I guess you could Siphon Soul on your own jailer.
Okay,
Yeah,
that
I
makes
think
sense.
that's the
That
play.
makes-
That makes sense. But you don't need to save it for anything. You know, in the rare event that you need hard removal, Twisting Nether or the Cascading Disasters.
yeah, but even just shooting up to 19 health in general is just almost necessary at this stage.
Yeah, you really need it. Okay, so the Swindle comes in to draw the spell and a minion, refreshing the Rogue's hand a little bit. The Rogue's just going to keep pounding away at face, but the problem is the Rogue's now down to 16 health. You need to get that Brain Freeze.
Yeah, I mean, you still have it there, so nothing's stopping that coming in, and you have the combo right now with it if you want to do the extra 3 damage. Because I mean, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, we do see the Cutting Class come through pretty much for free based on the damage of the weapon. So taking a look at the Rogue's hand, that's a lot more poisons. You have the Wicked Stab. So this is looking to set up for like a big lethal swing right now. And unfortunately, you're still 1 mana away from the likes of the Alexstrasza if you are the Warlock. So this is trouble for Bay State. I'm looking at the deck list right now to see if anything could be top deck. Honestly, what you're hoping for right now, as the Cloak of Shadows comes in, you can even do that damage. What you're hoping for is to basically just pull out either a Strongman or several of your Soul Fragments. Hasn't really drawn into them yet.
A nice Sinister Strike.
Mm-hmm. Cutting Class at the end. So that's going to be the end of it. Yep, okay, cool. So that's all you got. You get the rest of the hand back. Brain Freeze is there. You make yourself stealthy so you don't actually need to freeze the Ticketus just yet. Yeah, this is looking a little rough. I think it may be 1 turn from over. With the Sinister Strike and the Deadly Poison. 5. Yeah, you're if you don't have it, you're very close. But he did top deck the Drain Soul. Unfortunately, it means he's going to have to do it on his own minion.
I mean, that's the horrible part here, right? And you've Twisting Nether, which would be great if it wasn't into Poison Rogue, which you just don't have a way of cutting out this weapon damage right now. And like Straza, as you said, you're gonna have to wait another turn for. The Control Warlock probably debating a life tap now.
Yeah, just to see if you can save your life just enough. But the problem is every time you inch yourself down, you get closer and closer to lethal range. I think right now at 11, you're still in that lethal range. The issue is you're going to get all that spent next turn anyways. I think you have to Drain Soul no matter what. But you've got nothing else. You want to maybe draw Jiraxis, but Alexstrasza is your level 9 or your turn 9 play anyhow.
Yeah.
And he goes for the life tap. Okay.
Yeah.
Ogremancer is something, but actually,
that,
this
you
is
can't
huge because
Drain Soul.
if he plays the spell, you get the taunt out.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the risk. All in the line right now. Gonna go for the 6 damage. Oh, it didn't actually matter because he had 6 damage on it anyways. Goes for the Sinister Strike, and that is going to be GG, the champion. of the Hearthstone portion of NACE 2021 Spring is going to be Shawnee State. Krusty, congratulations.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be wrong with that prediction, because I think they brought out something that we talked about. Yes, it's a little off meta, especially in comparison to the other decks being brought out. That's why coming in, we were looking slightly favoring the other side, but Shawnee State just taking it pretty comfortably there. Krusty never looking like he was completely out of it. Now, those games came down to the wire, but being willing to play a lot more RNG-based decks, being willing to kind of roll with the punches. You can see that there's just a lot of Hearthstone experience in that, especially considering some of the decks of old certainly being more RNG-based than even the current meta.
And competitive experience coming to bear too, right? You know, at that level of play, you start to look at like not what's winning on ladder, but what can I actually do to, you know, to throw my opponent off, to have something a little bit different, to confuse them a little bit. I did like some of the tech choices. I mean, that Swamp Ooze in that last game really came in handy, but it wasn't quite enough because the Rogue could just cycle through all of its cards easily enough to get to that second weapon, able to do just enough for lethal. And unfortunately, you know, you were hoping if you're running the Control Warlock to get not so much board removal, but a lot of more healing, and it just didn't happen. And sometimes the luck runs out, but it was a big win and a consistent victory there to the Shawnee State player. And it looks like we are going to be bringing Glitter Explosion back into this one to discuss the post game. How'd you like those games, Glitter?
That was a great way to kick off our championship series here today. And of course, none of this would be possible
we got you on mute
without
for just
any...
a second. Let's see if we can get you back into this one.
Yeah.
Oh, I was.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there you are.
We got you.
I think I don't know. Either way, great way to kick off the championship series. None of this would even be possible though without any of our sponsors. So we need to give a shout out and a huge thank you to our sponsors, Microsoft, ATL, eHire, HyperX, and Queens Gaming Collective, for making this entire weekend possible, because it has been an absolute blast so far.